If I were to start a restoration company all over again, I would do it completely different. When my father and I started Romextera Restoration, we started doing everything at once, from rebuild to contents to mitigation. And we were pulling crews off of rebuild jobs to go do mitigation jobs, and it was just super frustrating, and it felt like nothing went well. And in the beginning, I had this mindset of more services and more jobs meant more money. But when we went from $1 million to $3 million a year, we realized that our bank account had not actually grown, and we were actually not paying ourselves much more. So I had to pivot and readjust and refine our strategy as we continued growing our business. As I was thinking of the process, I wanted to create a playbook to help other restorers grow and scale their businesses without going through the similar pains. So I wrote Restoration Millionaire, and it became a best-selling book within the market. And in this video, I want to show you how to go from 0 to an 8-figure restoration company with 30% margins and no burnout if I were to do it all over again. And this model is not just a hypothetical. Hundreds, if not thousands of restoration companies have actually applied this model. And in fact, this one company that I invested in, Mason-Dixon Restoration out of Baltimore, actually proved out this model by going from 0 to $2.6 million of top line revenue with 30% EBITDA margins and building a kick-ass business within only 9 months. This blueprint works, and here's what it is if I were to do it all over again. Let's dive in. So rule number 1 is start with mitigation only and one referral source. It's very tempting to try to be everything to everybody, but you actually become a nobody to everybody because you're not able to deliver on those promises. Forget the high dollar amount rebuilds and remodels when you first start. Start with mitigation only. Water jobs are higher gross margin. They are easier to actually do. The homeowner's not sitting there judging your flood cuts or how you removed everything. And in general, they require fewer decisions. Simplicity just wins overall. And always remember that simple scales and complex fails. So in your first phase, I would argue even up to $5 million a year of restoration revenue, you should be doing only water damage mitigation work. And then you could flip on that rebuild switch at any time. If you want bonus perks, go find a contractor that does rebuild work and have them kick you back 10 to 15%. That'll essentially be 10 to 15% net income for you not doing absolutely anything on the rebuild jobs. Rule number 2, hire these 3 roles. All you need when you first start out your restoration company, and this will probably hold true until you get to $3 to $4 million of revenue, is crew chiefs, technicians, and executive assistant, plus you. That's it. Those roles are everything that you need to get to multiple 7 figures of revenue. And if you're hiring directors of operations and mitigation managers and project managers from other companies, you're doing it wrong and you're essentially adding overhead to your business. If you keep your org chart flat and every single performance indicator tied to revenue, you will have a winning team that could absolutely crush. A crew chief and technician duo can do everything from selling the job and doing the job. And those 2 individuals can produce $1 million worth of work of revenue. As you get from $1 to $3 million, all you're going to do is have 1 to 4 crews. Very simple. And an executive assistant is your secret weapon. Not an admin person, not a payroll person, not a bookkeeper. The magic of having an executive assistant is essentially they could take on all the tasks that you're unable to do, and they could wear multiple hats. A great book to read on executive assistants is actually Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time. I literally took that and duplicated it over and over again across all of my operators, and it's just a wonderful playbook. Rule number 3, controlling your leads controls your growth. The reason you're not profitable, the reason there's not money in the bank is not because you haven't written your exactament estimates perfect enough. It's because you haven't had enough leads and you haven't been able to close said leads. The first 2 fishing holes I would start with to generate leads are online marketing and one referral source. The referral source could be anything from plumbers, property managers, or insurance agents. I would probably stick to plumbers as your main referral source, as well as online marketing. Online marketing is foundational because with PPC and LSA, you can get $3 to $5 to $10 million a year worth of work just from that channel alone. If you look at the pie of where people get restoration work and you consider that pie 100%, about 20% of that pie goes to the TPAs, and that's work that I personally would not go chase. The other 80% is kind of split 50-50 between referrals, like plumbers, insurance agents, property managers. And then the other 50% comes from online marketing, because your typical homeowner that has water damage is either going to pick up the phone and call a plumber or call their insurance agent, or they're going to go on Google and look up the nearest water damage restoration provider. At our restoration company, we do 8 figures of revenue, and about 70% of that revenue comes from online marketing alone. And it's the simplest thing that you could actually set up right away. And actually in the link below, I have a full video that explains online marketing for water damage restoration. And also in the link below, we have a full video that explains how you can start getting plumbers and property managers to refer to your restoration business. Rule number 4, move fast on 2-way doors and move slow on 1-way doors. In business, you always have 2-way doors, things that you can try, and there's no cost to just abandoning them and moving back, like hiring a sales marketing person, hiring an online marketing agency, going and paying money to Google, and so on and so forth. Those are 2-way doors, right? Because you can go and you could try it, you could see if it works, and if it doesn't work, you could fire that resource. And then there's 1-way doors. That'd be an example like buying a building or signing up a lease that's going to take you up for 6 to 7 years. It's key to default to action and move very fast on those 2-way doors, because you could always end up nixing that idea. And moving slow on those 1-way doors is key, because the minute you're stuck with a mortgage on a $2 million property, you're actually going to be stuck on that for 30 years. And remember this, 80% done by something or somebody else is 100% freaking perfect. Perfection kills speed. Speed creates momentum. Rule number 5, action beats perfection. You'll never have it all figured out. And anybody that tells you in this industry that they have it all figured out, they're full of freaking shit. One of the superpowers of Mason-Dixon Restoration, that one company I told you guys about earlier, that went from 0 to almost $3 million a year of revenue within 9 months, was the fact that they didn't care if things were perfect. They were scrappy. And when we went and did a shop tour of their shop, they actually didn't have anything super complicated or perfect. It was a very simple shop with just some equipment laying around and some antimicrobial and such. And in general, the way they moved very fast is they defaulted to action, and they didn't care if their actions were absolutely perfect. You could always iterate on stuff after you make the decision, but the slowest killer of restoration companies is when people wait forever to try to make the decision and make sure that everything is perfect before they make the decision. You're never going to be able to figure out everything. You're never going to be able to prevent something from going wrong. What you can do is shorten the amount of time in between the idea coming to your head or the solution coming to your head and executing upon that. The winners are the ones who take messy action every single day. Don't wait for the perfect CRM, the perfect estimator, the perfect BDR. Just go ahead and make those 1-way decisions very fast without chasing perfection. Rule number 6. Chase cash flow, not size. When I first started out in business, I thought I wanted the $10 to $20 million a year business, and I was hyper focused on the top line revenue. And while that's important, you can't really go sell your business for a multiple of revenue, and you can't really pay your employees with revenue. So being hyper focused from day one on a non-negotiable on cash is very, very, very important. And I would rather have a $5 million business spitting out $2 million a year of cash than having a $15 million business that has 0 cash. The bigger the business without profit, the bigger the problems. So before you chase the next crew, the next truck and such, just ask yourself, how is cash flow doing? And am I actually optimized with the current staff that I have? I think the bigger the amount of employees is just a vanity metric that makes you feel good about yourself, but it's like candy, right? It's not actually helping your body out. Rule number 7, and this is a freaking spicy one. Industry experience doesn't mean anything. The world-class people building restoration companies right now are actually from outside of the industry. And the fact that you knew about the industry from 30 years ago and you could recite the ISO or CS 500 standard, that is not a superpower. That is the commodity. And what I found is, as restorers are hiring people from other companies, project directors, project managers with all this experience, they're inheriting the old way of doing things. And those individuals are the hardest to actually train into the new era. And the other thing is, as you get bigger, there's less and less restoration companies. There's such a long tail of $1 million restoration companies, but within your market, there's only probably a handful of 8-figure plus restoration companies. So it's very hard to actually find somebody with experience from the stage of business the bigger you get. And the key is to actually hire from outside of the industry. People that have worked for professional companies within the services, whether it's plumbing, HVAC, and so on and so forth, and training them on the restoration knowledge. The restoration stuff's easy to pick up. Leadership and building a company and being able to sell, produce, so on and so forth, those are a lot harder tasks. Rule number 8, always be learning and surround yourself with killers. You're only as good as the people that you're around. And if you go to those rooms where everybody is complaining about claims volume being down and complaining about adjusters and such, all that's going to happen to you is you're going to actually get dragged downwards. You have to be hyper allergic to those types of rooms, remove yourself from that noise, and plop yourself into the room of opportunity. At Evolve, we have a restoration mastermind that happens 3 times per year, and it's essentially 100 to 200 restoration winners that are getting together, and all we focus on is the opportunity and the fruits within the industry. We believe the industry is big enough, abundant for absolutely everybody to absolutely crush, and we're very allergic to all those other rooms where people are just complaining about insurance companies and adjusters and all that stuff. So be very, very careful of who you surround yourself with, and always learn from outside of the industry. Always learn positive behavior. Rule number 9, speed is key. And I actually like this quote where it's like, speed is the key, time is the enemy, and momentum is the only currency that counts. Nobody wants to work for a slow-moving restoration company. No customer wants to hire a slow-moving restoration company. You want to create that culture of speed and momentum, and what you're going to notice is that as you build your restoration company, there's going to be a giant boulder that's absolutely unstoppable rolling down the hill. The faster you can get the jobs, the faster you can produce the jobs, and the faster you can get paid on the jobs, the better. Your engine is literally going to be running like a well-oiled machine. Building a restoration business isn't about insurance or dry logs or drying equipment. It's about freedom, and specifically your freedom as a restoration operator. The faster you move, the simpler you operate, and the more you believe in abundance over fear, the quicker you'll get the freedom that you want. Comment your biggest takeaway below and subscribe if you're ready to build your restoration empire. I'll see you guys soon.